Përshëndetje and welcome to Inside Albania with me, Alice Taylor. Today I'm joined in the studio by Blerta Kambo. You've probably heard her name over the last few weeks. She is an artist, a filmmaker, a photographer, and an activist as well. Blerta Kambo, welcome to Inside Albania. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Alice.
Now, you have been very popular. Your name has been everywhere the last couple of weeks. And we'll get to that in a minute. We'll talk about that in the full detail that it deserves. But for the benefit of our viewers, I want to start at the beginning. You are a very well-known photographer, filmmaker, and artist. But I want to know, how did this start? Who is Blerta? Where are you from originally? How did you choose this path in your life?
Since we are in Albania, and when someone asks me where you're from, I say I'm from Korça, even though I've been in Tirana for 3 generations. So I was born here, raised here. I studied initially environmental engineering, and I thought this was my path. Environmentalist, etc. It was not a good time to be an environmentalist. Well, it just never is to be an activist in
I
any.
think it's getting worse now.
I think, fortunately, yes. But at the time, I started photographing polluted areas around Tirana with a borrowed camera, and I fell in love with photography. This was 18 years ago, plus I think 20 years ago, and then I just. I ended up being a photographer. I don't know how this happened. I started taking pictures. Someone liked them, and they offered me a job. And then I worked for many years, both commercially and also I did do some artworks with photography as a medium, but it was never my intention, so to speak. And then I took it very seriously, obviously. And then after working for 14 plus years, I went to London to study filmmaking. I love the moving image. So now I'm also a filmmaker, I guess. And I think I'm going to take this more seriously from next year onward. When the moment I came back to Albania a year and a half ago, I went back to my art projects. So I've been working a lot with conceptual artwork, which is both using photography as a medium, but also installation, sculpture, video art, and other ways. And in all of them, there is always a kind of a message on social justice or something else. There's a lot of feminism, obviously, and I also talk about how patriarchy damages men. I call it feminism in defense of men, and other topics. The environment is something that I'm working on right now. It was probably the topic that I care about, one that I care about the most. And I was always afraid to tackle it because I thought I would not be delivering maybe what it needs, because it's really crucial. Right now, has always been, but crucial, even more so now. So this is going to be, again, something I will talk about. And human rights in general also. So that's more or less.
And when you planned to sort of go in one direction and then you chose the artistic direction, what was the reaction of your family to this? Were they supportive, or were they, because I know that some Albanian families can be a bit like, no, you have to. I mean, even my parents were like, you'll never make money from doing art or creative things. You have to have a real profession. They were wrong, obviously. Yeah. Here I am doing what I wanted to do from the age of 6, but how was their reaction, especially back then?
They were really supportive, because there was an episode when I was, I don't know, I think maybe 7 or I loved the piano, and apparently I was really good at it. And then when my piano teacher told my parents that I'm really good at it, and then I should maybe consider it, I'm talented, I should take it seriously. And they well, they freaked out. And there's like, that's not a real profession. So they removed me from the piano lessons, and they put me to math lessons.
Oh no.
Which I hated it.
Oh no.
I mean, I love the maths now as I see it as a form of art, but back then obviously it was not. So, and I don't think they ever forgave themselves for doing this. And later on, my mother, on one of my first exhibitions, kind of with eyes in her with tears in her eyes, said, you know, I'm really sorry about what I did, but you ended up being an artist anyway. So I'm happy. And then since then, they never, ever say anything to me.
Did you ever have, when you were studying maths, like, I hated maths, I was terrible at it, and I couldn't see the point in it. I liked algebra because it had logic and it had problem, you know, I liked this. But my teachers would say, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket all the time, blah, 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 you know, and well, I do. Yeah. I've literally never needed to know what pi is, you know. Yeah. And I see my daughter's maths homework now, and I'm like, okay, she needs to know the basics of this, but I feel that some of these hours every night could be spent doing something a little more beneficial, like art or something like that.
True. Unfortunately, the education system, I don't think, is catching up with what's going on.
No. But, teach them to code instead, not just 100 sums every night, you know? Yeah. So you are now working in photography and creative field with a strong element of activism, and I'm still curious about your family's reaction to that. So do they understand your work? Do they get it? Do they worry that maybe you're going to provoke the wrong person? Do they sometimes not agree with some of the themes, like you mentioned, feminism and patriarchy? How's this?
Actually, they're really, really supportive. I know it sounds, for Albanian families particularly, they're worried, of course. They were worried last week, but they were worried because they thought I was worried about people's reactions, or whenever I do. I mean, I did back in, was it in June or May? I did an artwork called Love is the Same, which is obviously celebrates all kinds of love, queer love, straight love, any any love.
Love is love.
Love is love, correct. And then you knew exactly what it was about. And they were really supportive about it. And they're 70 something, 75, 76, and they are really, they grew up in another time. So my logic whenever I do something like this is like, if my parents can understand it and they can be supported, and not just because they're supportive to me, but they understand that someone's freedom to love whoever they want to love, as long as it's consensual, does not affect them, because, you know, and then if they can understand them, then I'm sorry, I will not forgive, I don't want to say names, but to someone today, because you have to understand, you need to let people be themselves and be free. It's human rights.
Of course.
It's a human right.
I suppose they've had easy access to a great education in these things from you, you know, but it's right. If they can understand this basic concept, there's no reason why.
But they're working class. They never had access to books. I didn't grow up with books. That's why some people say, like, you know, how I ended up being an artist, or I was drawn to books whenever I could, and philosophy since, I don't know, forever. And then, but they always encourage knowledge, obviously.
Yes.
And they were supportive in this, but it was not the environment, so to speak, of thinking differently. They grew up in communist Albania, and
weren't allowed to think.
Exactly. So it was, you know, the anything you could possibly imagine for your future was completely different what it turned out to be for that generation and the one after. And also the transition was because unfortunately we always forget that there was communism, of course, but then you have 30 years of this continuous transition, which horrible things have happened. Like we don't talk enough about, for instance, 1997 and what it did to this country and to people's trust in each other and everything else, because the enemy was us. It was between. So in this context, I think for them, I think they learned obviously to embrace something new that they don't know. But at the same time, I think when it starts from a place of love and gentle and kindness, which is something I'm very grateful to have inherited from them. They're the kindest people I know, the sweetest people I know. So when it starts from a genuine place, even when you don't understand something, your first reaction is not to attack it. You try to understand. Yes, even if you are afraid of it at the beginning.
Yes.
So in this sense, I think it made it easier for them. And they've never visited an art gallery before they came to see my exhibition, because it is not
wasn't
something
in their sphere.
It was not in their sphere, and unfortunately, it's not in the sphere of most Albanians still, and even my generation. And I'm trying a project to try to change this a bit, at least with the newer generation, because it's not even their field of view to, even when traveling somewhere, to go and see an art gallery, even if you can't find it here, which you now can, because there's so many good exhibitions happening.
Over the last 8 years, I mean, I get invitations to the point where I try and take Dea as much as I can, in between work and things, but I don't have enough time to go to all of them, and I regularly miss things. It wasn't like this sort of 7-8 years ago. There wasn't as much. It was difficult to find your way into what's going on. Now it's developing. Now you said as well you lived in the UK for some years, and I wanted to ask how that experience was for you as an Albanian as well. The UK is not a great place for Albanians at the moment, like years and years later.
Well, I went with a privileged status, so to speak, because I went to study. And I was prepared for this. I had been saving for years. I planned this. So, and even in that situation, it was not smooth at all. Well, first, because also the pandemic happened. So it was not the best time to be in the UK. And then also in 2019, I remember the rhetoric against Albanians started on TV by politicians, obviously looking for the next scapegoat. And I remember it was all over the news. It was all over, to the point that even though people are nice and polite, even though it's a big city and obviously it's less friendly, but still, you could feel there was an antagonism in situations where I would ask for a flat share, or like very subtle, very micro. But the mostly you would feel it in the institution, and then you would feel it in such ways, because then you understand how you are a third-hand citizen. You're not even a second-hand citizen. You're non-UK, you're non-EU. So automatically, a lot of this discourages you to consider many things when it comes to work. For instance, I couldn't work like other people in my class could work at the same time. And as a student, even though I was paying tuition, really one of the best schools, but also expensive one. So it was not easy, but then I kind of made peace with the city, and obviously there's amazing people, and this does not represent, just like some institutions that do not, or some people do not represent Albania. In the case, that's the case with the UK as well. I have amazing friends who are British, English, international, because it's a big city, and they made it feel like home to me. And the last year, actually, I was doing quite well. I did an exhibition. I was nominated for an international prize. So, but there was always something missing for me, and there was an Albanian factor. I didn't know, actually I was missing it until I stayed here longer because of circumstances, 2 or 3 months. And then I was like, oh wow, okay, so my nervous system really needed to calm down and be home.
Because of course, if you're there, even though you might not be directly receiving negativity every day, it's around you. Like it's in the TV, it's in the news. You might hear it's a raised eyebrow, where you mention where you're from. It's
everywhere. It's a raised eyebrow.
Someone making a comment, about like a joke about mafia or criminal. These little
My
things
life story.
just existing in that will make you tense. You're constantly feeling perhaps maybe you have to prove yourself a bit more, even though you don't need to. Or is this person going to judge me? Are they judging me without saying anything? Of course, it would have an impact on you
all the time.
It's terrible that you have to exist.
The amount of comments I've heard, it's terrible. And this was also from people that was not British or English, and there's like I think it was a Belgian student, and we were talking. I don't know. I think it was a post-screening event, and he says something like, "Oh, you're Albanian," and I don't know if he was trying to talk to me, was flirty, I don't know, but he was like, because he was hesitant to say, in Belgium, you never date an Albanian girl, and I was like, what do you mean? Because we are told never to date an Albanian girl because her brothers or her cousins or they will be aggressive with you. And I was like, I mean, what can I say? What can I say? It's just, but also like putting everyone into one basket is also because the thing is, I know there are, they say the traditional values, like or the way Albanians are, they think of marriage and relationships, and it's different. And I respect that part. But obviously, there's a lot of them who moved in other countries, and they, basically they integrated quite well, like with some other places' mentality.
I think I've joked about this before in one of my videos, but it was about this. The brothers will come and get you, but it was because a guy had come onto some Facebook group and like basically fetishized Albanian girls. It was like, where can I meet one? I want one, and I was like, no, because you'll have to deal with all her family, So I was doing it to sort of highlight his stupidity.
I like this protectiveness that we have. Obviously, I'm never against. I'm always against violence, and and there is just something about this. It's obviously exaggerated because then it starts with the fact that also a girl's freedom is also taken away. Just as much as she's given protection. So there's a lot there to unpack, but at the same time, I try, like me coming back, I'm looking at a lot of the things that I used to be super critical about with a little bit more understanding and kindness. For instance, when we talk about nepotism, that I used to be so ashamed of. And I mean, obviously, corruption is a terrible thing that is still ingrained in the fabric of the society. But it's not just Albanian. It's not an Albanian invention. It exists everywhere. The only difference is that here happens on a scale that starts like from everyone until the up.
Yes.
And in places like the UK, it's really it's higher level with large amounts, billions.
I've said this so many times. People, yes, there is a problem at higher level here with corruption, but the same people who are complaining about corruption, the government, blah, 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 are the same people who are not declaring all their taxes, who are by having willingly. Someone who lives near me is like in their 70s, and I asked him at the election, because I voted for the first time as an Albanian citizen, and I said, did you vote? No, because nobody paid me for my vote, so why would I go and vote? And I'm like, but you sit in the coffee shop and you complain every day about how corrupt the government are, but now you're complaining because you didn't get paid, but then you're now going to complain about it's from the bottom up. It's taxi drivers who go without putting it on the meter. Okay, I'm guilty of doing it sometimes as well. It's meeting for a coffee, even if you're not bribing someone, but it's that meeting face to face to get something advanced, or it's everywhere, and it's normalized.
It's normalized, but considering this, I have also another theory. Maybe it's just me now idealizing Albania too much, but I think it also comes from a cultural concept. And bear with me, please. I'm not going to say Albania is inherently corrupt. I'm just saying that I think it comes from the fact that we were always invaded. We had poverty, wars, all kinds of things happened to us, and we had to rely on each other. It was something that we needed each other so much, like this safety net, like the family, other people, someone do you know someone that does this? Could someone help me do something or get something? So we had to rely on this, and it became ingrained, like that. It's easier now, and I actually like it that I can call anyone, and they will help me. I'm hoping they will help me. And it's something that can only happen in Albania in this case. And things can happen just as sometimes it takes longer. It actually, you can make it. You can make amazing things if you are also nice to people, if you give back, and if you promise them that you're doing something good. I think inherently it starts with this, in my view. So whenever I meet people, especially foreigners visiting, and then they start unpacking this corruption, there's all this, construction happening, this is happening, that is happening, and it's all mafia money. I was like, oh, okay. First of all, before we talk about this invisible mafia funding everything in Albania, corruption exists everywhere.
Yes.
And I have to say, we're talking about billions in other countries.
Yes.
Whenever one politician
is the money laundering capital of the world.
Terrible. Once you do a little bit of research, you understand everything that's going on. At least in the years that I was there,
Yes.
I didn't even watch the news so much, and I knew what was going on. But then the institutions worked, of course, because they had been established for hundreds of years. So, and then in the case of Albania, whenever they come, and I was like, no, you have to understand, it's also culturally like that. We will. It's the way we are. And also, let's not forget, Albanians will go out of their way to help you.
Yes.
They will, in a way that I missed so much in London, and I didn't really understand it because it's such a big city. It's amazing. And I'm not comparing it to other places, which can be can be awful, like New York or most cities in the US. I'm sorry. But you are dehumanized to the point of not understanding anymore who you are and what you want. In Albania, even though, it has its issues, its problems, a lot of them I used to be critical about. And I was one of the first ones. I wanted to leave because of it. But then you understand the world is an unfair place in many ways. And then there are positive sides and negative sides in every country, has its own side. So in Albania, I'm looking at all of these elements, in a different lens, and it has shifted everything for me. And even when it comes to everything I create, but especially in defending this cynicism. To be honest, there's so much cynicism from a lot of people who come here and they speak to someone who's obviously revolted, and they're blaming the government all the time. Which I also must say that we need to start taking some personal responsibility, because it's not just blaming someone. It's so easy to blame someone. And I agree that you should raise your voice and concern with a lot of things, which we don't do, unfortunately. We only do it on social media. This has to change a little bit. Then culturally, like I said, Albanians are so loving and kind. And they just need that, to pass that restriction of seeing the other in a different way, because then we start having those small moments of people get too close, but there's the aggressiveness, people for no reason, they can be like this attitude of, which is impoliteness, but I think it's, for me, it could, with the same person, the same day, the opposite could also happen. You could immediately bond and create this loving conversation that makes your day.
But people are, and it's not just, foreigners that come here and say, well, Albania has a problem with corruption. Like so many people here, I've had people on the show, and all they see is the negative. And they're like, no, it's terrible. It's a mafia state. Everything's narco money. The economy is going to implode. It's terrible. We're doomed. Nothing has improved in the last 30 years. And I get things are not perfect, but I just cannot. I have an element of privilege. I can sit here and say, oh, life's wonderful, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's bloody hard, It's hard anywhere you live. It's not, I'm alone raising a child in a foreign country. I work 70 hours a week, whatever. It's hard. I do have privilege, but it is hard. But I don't think it's that bad. I look now at how Albania is. My daughter goes to state school. I wouldn't have sent her to state school 5 years ago if she'd been at school age, because the schools in Tirana before the earthquake were not, in my view, at the level that they should be. Is the state school system perfect? No. Is it perfect in the UK? Absolutely not. Hospitals. I use Nana Teresa Hospital for pretty much everything. Would I have done so 7 years ago? I didn't. I used to go private. I gave birth to Dea privately. Now I use the state hospitals. The roads. Are they perfect? No. Are they better? Yes. Is infrastructure easier? Is it easier to access government services and things? Yes, it is. Things have got better.
So much better. We forget so easily.
Yes, I've seen such a huge change. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. I don't like all the high rises and things, you know? I'm not a fan of this. I think there are big problems going on in the government and in the opposition and in democracy as a whole. But is it as bad as it was 8 years ago? No. Is it as bad as it was in 97? No. But people, I think Albanians can be very pessimistic, and they have, a lot of people have stuck in their minds an idea of an Albania from 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they don't see the good. And I don't understand this negativity. Yes, I know there are people living in poverty and really struggling, and the cost of living is insane, but I don't know. People don't seem to want to be positive.
I mean, if they had this image of Albania 20 years ago, they would definitely see the difference, because you haven't been here. You were talking about the difference in 7-8 years, but I can tell you in 10, 15, 20 years ago was completely another thing. Your life depended on, you would go out of your house and you had to really think about what shoes you were wearing, because you would come out, your shoes would be covered in mud, literally. 20 years ago, when you would go somewhere, it was that bad. So, and especially because of the constructions and the changes, a lot of the things have changed. I saw a change, and I was away only for 4.5 years, and I saw massive change.
Yes.
Also culturally, as an artist, institutions, everything. So I wouldn't say this, but yeah, unfortunately, the pessimism also comes from the rhetoric, and also comes from people, I have to say this, from people's not knowing what it's like somewhere else.
Yes.
Because I was one of those people that wanted to just leave. I left a few years ago to study, but I actually wanted to leave since forever, I think. And not just because of having views that are different, let's say from the majority, but also just because I wanted to leave. And then you see that just like we have problems, every other country has their problems.
Yes.
And they are intense when you live somewhere else. And then, you know what? You can never replace the human element. You can replace a lot of things. So I agree with a lot of people. They should leave. They should leave
To see what it's like.
What it's like for a year. All Albanians should leave for a year. Not all at the same time. But they should leave for 1 year. Just to try it. And it's okay to study, especially young people. They must. They have to. They have to do a
Different
specialization
mentality,
all the
new
time
skills.
to learn. Just learn. Traveling, learning something. Just all the time. You can, but then come back. Because you will see that this is home.
Yes, there's so many things I see in Albania which I really value about the society here, which don't exist in Europe anymore. The attitude towards children, the attitude, the family sort of, okay, this has some toxic elements as well.
I know.
But this sense of family, the safety, I mean, these sorts of things, the ability to be able to just travel around easily. And, you know, I've told people before, my mum used to teach in a school in inner city London, and the kids in her school had never left the city. And some of their parents had never left the city because they couldn't afford to. They've never seen a beach before. They've never seen a cow before. You know, here you come to work and there's a cow in front of you on the road, you know. These things are important. You can't put a price on that. And I really emphasize to people that, I mean, I work with a media in Brussels as well. And, you know, my colleagues there are very professional journalists. They have a very good salary, but once they've paid their tax, their rent, their blah, 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 you know, they're working to live. They don't have the same level of freedom or ability, you know. I'm like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, just going to go food shopping or like paint the bathroom. And I'm like, well, I'm going to Shistovet, to a potato festival. You know, they're like, what? You know, you can have a life here, a quality of life, which money can't buy.
And also we don't value here a lot of the things, like just being able to go to the beach, like you said, and to the mountains, so easy, so close, which is completely inaccessible for most people living in London, or it's just too expensive. It's too far away
for a bus to Dores.
Exactly. And then to have this kind of access, and also just valuing, because the fact that there is sun. Okay, we've had 1 week of rain. Whenever
so depressed.
so depressed, and everyone is so depressed. And whenever everyone I met, and they were telling me, "Oh, was like terrible," and it was like, okay, so stop you right there. Remember when you would ask me, why did I leave the UK and why would I? And it's like, this is all the time. This is exactly what is all the time.
I was sat on the bus yesterday and I felt like I wanted to cry. And I was like, why do I feel so? And then I looked out the window and I was like, it's been like this for 10 days, and I thought exactly the same thing. Yeah. This is normal in the UK, and it really does have an impact on your well-being. As I mentioned in the introduction, you have been everywhere the last couple of weeks. Your name, I was opening Instagram, I was like, wow, what happened there?
I don't know.
Let's start at the beginning. You made an art installation in a very famous landmark in central Tirana with very noble intentions. But of course, social media being social media, not everybody really understood. Yeah. So what did you do and what happened?
So practically, I did an installation on the mosaic, which is called the Albania mosaic. For everyone visiting Tirana, they know where it is. It's a very famous artwork.
I'll explain it. It's just because people may not have seen it. It's on the National Museum in Tirana, and it depicts heroes of communist Albania and Albanians in various different costumes and things. But it's a very famous piece of work, and it was recently restored by the European Union, I believe, wasn't it? Yes.
It was made in 1981 and actually depicts, it's a bit the history of Albania. Yes. There are 13 characters. It starts from the Illyrians and then Renaissance, and then from the communist, obviously, figures. And then in the middle, there is a female figure which is supposed to symbolize Albania. She's walking proudly. And I've always admired her. And I saw it as a feminist figure and a powerful woman. I never saw her as a hero coming from the communist era, etc. I was asked, there is an organization which deals with breast cancer awareness and YWCA. And they asked me to think of something for October, for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. As an artist, they knew I was doing a lot of social causes with integrating with art. So I thought, what's the most powerful female figure that I can think of that is also publicly
not Diela.
Not Diela, definitely not. That is so tangible, that is like public. And then I thought of the woman on the mosaic. And practically the installation is I created another mosaic with the exact same stones, tesseras, used in the original restoration from the recent restoration. And it's exactly the same. The only thing that is missing is her hair. And on her breast, there's a kind of a sign to basically allude to a mastectomy. It's all symbolic, obviously.
Yes.
And this, my intention was obviously to raise awareness for breast cancer, but also to dedicate it to all the women and their battle with breast cancer, because it's a really fierce battle. And I've been, their strength. Because when I was asked for this work and I was thinking of what can I do, I haven't had breast cancer, so I don't know what it's like. I cannot talk about the pain and everything women go through. But what I can talk about and what struck me was their strength. So I was like, but also to talk about strength in a way that they need our strength. They can be strong, they're incredible, but they need our strength and support. So this was the reason. And the mosaic basically was put 10 centimeters from the other one, never touched it. But it gave the illusion that it was part of it. So for 10 to 12 days, that was the idea, to remind us on 1 in 12 women that are affected by breast cancer, which is a very scary statistic. It was placed on the mosaic. And then the first 2 days, 1 day and a half, everyone who heard about it, they were, they loved the concept. They were super supportive. So many people reached out. But then, unfortunately, there is a group of people with really negative intentions, which I call their patriots, and with fake family values, trying to protect them. And I don't know, their background is it's highly disputed. Like, we can talk about it, but all of a sudden they're the saviors because they come with this extreme agenda. They are against everything, basically, and everyone. Everything they take out it's hate, practically. Right-wing conservatives with really suspicious funding.
Beyond
I don't know.
right-wing, I know lots of right-wing conservatives who are lovely people.
I know, absolutely.
This is like extremism.
These are extremists.
And what was their problem?
And they're using, basically, they're using some elements of, because they know Albanians are sensitive in some aspects. And their problem was that they purposefully misinterpreted, and they said that I actually made a trans person. Because we just passed a law on gender equality, which talks actually about women's rights mostly.
Yes, 90% is the right
of it.
Women. Yeah.
But then also you talk about minorities and gender equality, basically, so everyone can have the same right to care and everything else, basic human rights. And they used this. They had a demonstration. They had a protest coming up in 2 days after my exhibition. So obviously they needed an argument. So they purposefully lied online. They created this case. They took some pictures here and there, pure slandering. And they created this story online, which some other media does
Which
not
was
do
what
any.
exactly? What did they allege?
They alleged that because I had worked for the Albanian Prime Minister, because I'm an activist for LGBTQI plus, I'm for human rights.
Yes.
Of course, I'm there. I have friends. I'm going to be there for them. And because what were their arguments? I saw Soros,
Illuminati.
Illuminati are funding me, like in their. So because of all of this, I must, like, my intention is to make a trans person out of national symbols. And then some other media who never fact checks and they just want people to, click on that.
Yeah, they copy and paste them.
So they copy paste this, and then it went viral. And it was at the same time terrible to see how such an important cause
was hijacked.
And then you see the comments of calling, that's a trans, etc. And most women, when they go through breast cancer and they lose their hair, because it's the darkest moment in their life, practically. And this is what I wanted to talk about, like even the darkest moments, they're so strong. They are called by some people with who stigmatize them. They're called like, you look like a man, etc. So for them, seeing this, hearing this, is re-traumatizing.
So just to be clear, the figure had the sign of a mastectomy scar, which is what happens if you have breast cancer and it's at a certain level. You have to have your breast removed, one or both. Some women even have it done preemptively, not because they want to be trans or a man, but to prevent them from getting breast cancer. If it's in your family, it's optional. You can have them removed. No hair, not because they're trying to be a man or want to be a man or are a man, but because when you undergo chemotherapy, most of the time your hair falls out or becomes patchy and people choose to shave it. So just to be clear, that is it.
That is it. And also they clearly have no idea what a trans person looks like, because that's not, a trans person does not look like any in that way, but
they normally, some have hair, some have long hair, short hair.
It's completely, yes. They're just using some phobias of people. That's where it comes from. People don't know.
Yes.
So they're using this lack of knowledge, because it was also written. They went through my Instagram and my social media. They went deep to find anything that they could from my history. So they clearly read what the project was about. It was written for anyone interested. They can clearly see everything is in there. And I'm very grateful, actually, for the Ministry of Culture who believed it. And it was a 2 months process of explaining to them technically how I would never harm the
Yeah, you
mosaic.
would protect it.
Protect it, because that was my intention as well. Obviously, that there was no chance to harm it. It was just something, an installation that would come on top of it. And of course, I was expecting some rhetoric. I was not expecting it.
It's crazy. I mean, I saw it and I instantly, before I even read, I knew that it was a woman and I assumed that it was something to do with cancer before even reading about it. Like, it doesn't look like a man. It doesn't look like anything to do with... It doesn't even cross my...
The rhetoric, they used the rhetoric, and unfortunately it worked. But at the same time, I don't think they planned this, because they made it so popular.
Well, yeah, this is...
And then I've had people writing to me, Albanians from all over the world, women from everywhere, and like thanking me and congratulating me.
Yes.
Because people see mostly the negative comments because they are louder, because they're there. But actually, I have thousands of messages.
Support. Thank you.
And then I can say, okay, it was talked about, so my mission here is complete. I'm obviously sad that it went.
Thanks for bumping my algorithm as well.
Exactly. So, but it's sad. It said something, and for me, it's frightening that something like this happens. And I think there needs to be absolutely some regulation, especially on social media. And the way people present information, and I do intend to have a defamation lawsuit.
Yes, I was going to say I was a victim of a fake news smear campaign in 2019. It nearly endangered my life. I was pregnant at the time. And I asked all the media who published the information to take it down. The ones that didn't, I sued them and I won. I won every case. But I also sued for compensation and damages, which is something which is not really recognised in Albania. And I won damages, but not enough. So we've appealed to get higher damages to set a precedent for damages to health and mental health and reputation caused by defamation and slander. So it's in appeal at the moment. I'm not keeping the money. The money is for my lawyers to use as a fund for other journalists, but I want to set this precedent. So yeah, you should do it, because it's not acceptable. And nobody expected me to take on some of the biggest, most well-known publishers in the country, let alone win. And I got threatened, in the process, but I won, and I will win the appeal as well. And yeah, it's definitely the right thing to do. And people said, no, don't. It will take years, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It needs to be done. You have to show that there is recourse and that this sort of thing is not acceptable. And some of the media who I sued were like, oh, but we just copied and pasted it from. And I'm like, not an excuse. You shouldn't be copying and pasting. You have to fact check. You can't just publish whatever you want to publish.
I asked you to take it down. I
asked you to take it down. You didn't.
And
so
in this case,
you had chance to retract it. So yes, you absolutely should do this and make an example out of them and sue them for damages as well, your reputational damages, stress. And yeah, I will have great fun in taking that money from them and using it for a good cause just to bother them. Yes, so you absolutely should do this. It's not extra work to file for damages as well, but yeah, you have to make an example out of people like this. Hijacking a good cause is not acceptable. My last question, has it put you off sort of maybe your next project or something? Are you thinking, oh, do I have to be careful? Are they going to twist it or misconstrue it?
Not in a million years.
Good.
I would do this over again. And actually, I do have a project. It's a coincidence that has some elements, and I know after this is going to be controversial, but I'm okay. I'm ready.
Good. Keep on. Thank you, Blerta.
Thank you, Alice.
That's all for this week. You can watch Inside Albania every Saturday on Euronews Albania, on our YouTube channel, Euronews Albania, or across all major podcasting platforms. Until next time, mirë pafshim.